I've just recently really been into sewing and I thought pillows were the perfect place to start. So the first pillow, the one at the back, I really get into detail in how to cut your pieces for your pillow no matter what size your pillow actually is. All the pillows are made the same way. So once you know that, you can make all of the pillows except for the woven pillow, the second one back. And that one I actually use the weaving as the front piece of the pillow. This pillow is inspired by an Urban Outfitters pillow. I saw it on Pinterest. It's the easiest of all three to make. So we'll make a piece for the front, and then on the back, we'll make two pieces so we can slip the pillow right inside. I'm using this 18-inch pillow, but you can use any pillow size you like. I'm going to show you right now how to cut your pieces and size them. Take your pillow size. Mine is 18 inches by 18 inches. Add 1 inch to each side. So I'm going to cut my front piece 19 inches by 19 inches. For the back pieces, divide the length, the 19 inches, by 2. So I'm going to have 9.5 inches, and then add 2 inches because you want them to overlay so you can't see the pillow once the pillow is inside the cover. So that makes it 11.5 inches. So in total, I need one piece that's 19 by 19 inches and two pieces that are 19 inches by 11.5 inches. Before I do my decoration on the front, I like to finish the edges of my pillow pieces so that they don't fray. You don't have to do this, but if you want to and you don't have a serger like me, I use this function on my sewing machine and I just sew around all the edges. This is the front of the pillow that I'm going to glue my macrame cord onto to make the pattern. I'm using this Urban Outfitters pillow as my inspiration. It's not going to be exactly the same because they braided the cord for their pillow and I'm using twisted cord rather than braiding cord. I'm laying out the entire design first because I want to make sure I get it how I want it to be before I glue it down. I'm leaving extra cord length over all of the edges. This is going to make it easier to sew the pillow together later. I'm making those overhanging ends a little extra long, just in case when I'm done laying out the design, I want to make any changes, and I might end up needing more cord length to do that. Another thing I'm considering while I'm laying out the design is that there's a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I continue to lay out the design, continuing to look at my inspiration piece to try and get it as close as I can to it, so I'm constantly making little adjustments as I go. You can see I'm getting closer to the finished look. And now just some fine tuning, and I'm getting pretty happy with it now. I get in there with my ruler to try and get my lines a little bit straighter. And then I do just a few more little adjustments. I'm using this Fabric Fusion, which says it's a permanent fabric adhesive, and on the back it even says it's washable. I'll put a link for it in the description below. I'm going to glue the cord down systematically bit by bit, and then this glue says it does take 2 to 4 hours to dry and it needs to be weighted down. So I'll weight it down with some books and then we'll be able to continue on. Here I'm using the seam allowance tool set at 1/2 inch. Because what I want to do is unravel my cords to that seam allowance because the cord is really thick and I want to get it through my sewing machine. So by unraveling the cord, it's going to make it a bit thinner. That's the strategy I'm going to use for the whole process. I'm going to glue down the cords bit by bit and always unravel the ends at the edges to make sure they're thin enough to go through the sewing machine. And now I'm just weighting it down with some books as the glue dries. It's been about 2 hours. I'm going to remove the books and see how the glue worked. looking great. The cord is stuck to the pillowcase. I don't think it's going anywhere. Now we need to sew the pillow together. With the two smaller pieces of material, you want to fold over a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the long edge, and then you want to iron it. It'll look something like this. And then sew a straight line. Place those two smaller pieces on top of the pillow. You want the wrong side facing up, so that seam that we just made is facing up. And make sure the corners are all nicely aligned with each other. So the right sides of the pillow are facing each other. Now I'm pinning all the way around the outside of the pillow to prepare to sew it together. Next, sew the pillow together, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance on all 4 sides. To get over thick areas of material, you want to hold your press-a-foot up like this, which is what this little black button is for. You can press it in and it holds the foot. It may hold the black button in. For me, I have to start sewing and then I can release the button, and it will sew over that thick area. And when it's over the thick area, it will release. So I'm just going to sew the entire pillow now, and you'll see how it is a little bit difficult to get over those corded areas, but it is possible. When you're done sewing, you want to cut those long cords away, and then you also want to trim the corners without cutting into the stitching, and this will prevent bunching in the corners of your pillow. Now it's time to turn the pillow cover inside out, making sure you push out all those corners, and then put the pillow inside. For this one, I make a macrame and then I sew it to the pillow cover as I'm constructing the pillow. I'm using 6mm cord from Anywell. I have a link for it in my description if you want to use the same cord. It's 3-ply twisted cord, and I like this one because it's nice and soft. Often 3-ply cord, it's very durable, but it can be quite hard to the touch. And I figure for a pillow, I want something that feels soft. If you want to learn more about macrame cord, I made a video specifically for that, and I'll leave a link in the description below. I'm using a 14-inch by 14-inch pillow, so all my macrame cord, my macrame piece, and my fabric pieces are measured based off that size of pillow. You can make adjustments based on your pillow size. Just jump to the chapter marked in the Urban Outfitters pillow, and I show you in detail how to do that. I've cut one piece of fabric at 15 inches by 15 inches and 2 pieces at 15 inches by 9.5 inches. I make my macrame on a dowel. I attach 20 3-meter lengths using the lark's head knot. To do the lark's head knot, align the ends of your cords, and that will make it equal lengths on each side once you attach it to the dowel. Now you want to take those ends behind the dowel over the top, and then you want to pull them down, and you're pulling them down until you see the loop at the other end. So there's my loop, and I'll take those and pass them through that loop and just pull them all the way through. And then you just tighten that cord onto the dowel like that. And then I just push that into place. You want to make sure that your pillow cover is just a little bit wider than your cords. I've allowed for 1/2 inch seam allowance on each side of my material. If you're finding you have too many across, you want to make sure you have multiples of 4. So I have 20, so you could go down to 16. If you needed more cords, you could go up to 24. Another option is using different cord thickness. A thicker one will use less cords, and a thinner cord will use more. With the 4 cords on the left, we're going to make a square knot. So take the left cord over those 2 middle cords, take the right cord over that cord, around the back behind those 2 cords, and through the opening. Pull those up snug. Now take the right cord over the 2 middle cords, take the left cord behind that cord, around the back, and through this opening. We want to do the square knot all the way across the top. Now skip the 2 left cords, and with the next 4 cords, do a square knot. Now do that all the way across, and these last two cords will not be knotted. Starting from the very left again, do another row of square knots all the way across. Now you want to cut a piece of cord that's long enough to tape it to the dowel, and then you want to be able to stretch it all the way across your work and have extra on this other end. So I'm taping that cord, and the reason I'm doing this is it's much easier to do a row of double half hitches with the starting cord taped down. The first step is doing a double half hitch with this cord and this cord. This is the cord dangling from the dowel. It's going to be our filler cord. It's going to be held horizontally. This first cord on the left, we're going to do a double half hitch with. So take that cord over top of that filler cord, around the back and through that opening. And now just pull that so it's up against the square knot. Take the same cord over top of that horizontal filler cord, around the back and through that opening. Now pull it again and pull it so it's nice and snug. And this is why it's nice to have this cord secured, otherwise this is very difficult. Now I'm not going to do double half hitches the rest of the way. I'm just going to do half hitches. Half hitches is doing just one wrap with this cord instead of two. And the reason I'm doing that is if I do double half hitches across, it's going to get very crowded. So do a half hitch. It's the same as a double half hitch. You take this cord over top of the horizontal cord, around the back, and then you pull this cord through the opening. And then pull it snug to that double half hitch. So double is 2 loops, half hitch is 1. So let's do another half hitch. So take the next cord over top of the horizontal one, around the back and through the opening. So I'm going to do half hitches all the way across, except for the very last cord. I'm going to do a double half hitch to secure it. So now I'm going to remove this tape. You don't need it anymore because that cord is now secured. So now I'm feeling like this gap is getting a little too big, so I'm going to do a double half hitch, and you can do this as you feel you need to as you're going across. I'm going to go 1, 2, and I think I'm going to do a double half hitch again. And now I'm going to switch back to half hitches. So you can figure this out as you go. It's going to be different for you than it is for me, most likely. So if you feel like there's getting a big gap, then do a double half hitch or two to close in the gap. So here I'm feeling like it's a big gap again, so I'll do a double half hitch. And back to half hitches. Here it looks like a big gap again, so I'm going to do a double half hitch. And a single. Here I'm going to do a double again. For the last one, I'm going to do a double half hitch. You always do a double at the beginning and at the end because it keeps the knot secure. So now I'm going to do a row of square knots all the way across, starting from the left side. And then I'll skip 2 cords on the left and do square knots all the way across. And then we have the 2 cords left at the end, and this is just that horizontal cord, so that one doesn't count. Now I'll repeat that, attaching a cord and doing another row of mixed double half hitches, and then 2 more rows of square knots. What I'm finding is the perfect amount of double half hitches to half hitch is doing this one. I did a double half hitch. Now I'll do 3 half hitches and then another double half hitch. And that seems to give the perfect spacing for this row. So I've done 2 of those rows, and now I'm going to do 2 more. Now we want to do one more row of the double half hitch combo. Now we'll finish the bottom like we did the top with 3 rows of square knots. I've taken my macrame and put it on a flat surface, and now I'm just going to remove the dowel. Leave a few inches and cut the excess macrame cord away. I'm also going to cut all the side lengths just so you have a few inches of extra as well. I'm undoing all of those lark's head knots. So I have my pillow cover here, and now I'm going to lay my macrame on top. And I want to place it evenly so there's the same amount of extra material on all sides. I'm preparing to sew my macrame to the top piece of the pillow. You might want to pull and stretch your macrame a little bit to get it how you want so it's nice and even. I'm pretty happy with how I have it centered now, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to pin down all the corners first. Then I'm going to pin down these side pieces, and then I'll pin these ones down as well. Probably not every one, but enough so that it's nicely secured so I can take it to the sewing machine. I forgot that I got these new clips, so I'm going to use those to pin it down as well. I think it'll be much easier. You want to make sure your ends aren't crossing over. So here I have it all pinned down. So next I'll meet you at the sewing machine. So now I'm sewing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance to sew all the macrame cords down. I'm really holding my cords into place where I want them to be because there is a lot of movement and it's going to get quite thick going over these cords. So I'm definitely going to hold them in place and do the best that I can. In the Urban Outfitters pillow, I show you how to sew over thicker material. And in the woven pillow, I show you how to use a walking foot, which is another way to get through thick material. I'm lifting up my cord and checking because I can't actually see my seam allowance. So I'm checking intermittently just to see if I am on track. This is going to be a little bit of a slow process, but I'm hoping it really turns out nicely. I feel like going slow is your friend in this case. I'm constantly making sure my cords are side by side and not crossing over. So I'm just going to check how we did before I do any more. So if I do have to undo anything, it's not the whole pillow. It's actually looking really good. I'm stoked. This is what the other side looks like. So I'm going to continue on. On the sides that just have the double half hitch, you only have to sew over the part to hold that cord in place. My recommendation is to really hold your cord when you're sewing because the presser foot wants to push this cord and it's a bit tricky. So I'm holding really firm and kind of assisting it under the foot. Just going really slowly, careful not to get your fingers caught. That's it. And now I'm just going to lift and move to the next spot, remove my clip, lower my presser foot, lower my needle, and then hold it in place as well as I can to get it over that cord. I always reverse a couple stitches to lock the seam in place and then move on to the next one. And then do the same thing on your other 2 sides. I'm quite happy with how this stitching has turned out. This is how it looks on the back side. So with your 2 smaller pieces on the long edge, the 15-inch edge, you want to fold over a 1/2 inch seam allowance and sew that. And then you want to have the right faces together. So I have my macrame facing up, my nice finished side is facing down. And then you want to line up corners. Pin or clip it together. So now let's go back to the sewing machine. We're going to sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around the pillow. Now this beginning stitch, you want to do a little bit of back stitching to lock in the stitch. So you go forward a couple stitches, backwards a couple stitches, and then forwards again, and then that cannot come undone. I'm going really slowly and carefully. Here it is all sewn together. So now before I turn it inside out, I'm going to cut all the excess cord off the sides. Also just going to cut the corners off. Careful not to cut into your stitches when you do this. This will just stop bunching in the corners. Let's turn it inside out. Let's hope it looks good. Okay, that looks pretty good. And the moment of truth, putting the pillow inside. And that is looking like a pretty nice pillow. Oh, love it. This weaving I poured so much love into, and it took me so much time, but then I just didn't love it when it was on the wall. So I've decided to repurpose it and try to make a pillow out of it. This is definitely more of a show and tell tutorial because you're not going to have the same weaving as me and probably not the same size. And I go through a lot of learning curves on this process. It definitely was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the easiest pillow, and it was the hardest. So first, I'm just going to tidy up the back. I trimmed all these little tucked in edges. I'm trimming these off. These are the warp strings. They're just an extra bit that doesn't need to be in my pillow. The long fringe, I am going to trim a bit, but I'm going to wait till my pillow is sewn to decide how I want it to look. And then I'm going to sew it together like a pillow. I was thinking about gluing these down, but I realized it's going to get sewn on the edge, so they are going to be secure. Just trimming these hanging cords. They're also part of the warp strings. This one will fit a 14 by 14 inch pillow. I kind of wish it was bigger, but I didn't make this weaving for this purpose, so I got to work with what I've got. In one direction, my weaving is large enough. It's just over 14 inches, about 14 and a half inches actually. But in the other direction, the weaving is only 13 inches. There's this fringe that's longer, but it's not long enough to attach to the pieces of the pillow for the other side. So I'll make an extra piece for this end and just sew it onto this bottom side, and then we'll sew on the other pillow pieces, the pieces that you can open to put the pillow inside. Now I'm going to cut the pieces of my pillow to sew this all together. So I've cut 2 pieces for the opening at the back and 1 piece to attach to the woven side. So I attach that piece of fabric to my weaving to extend the length of it, and this is all my fringe that later on I'm going to trim. Now I'm just going to sew to attach this. I'm doing this with a different presser foot than I did for the Urban Outfitters pillow. I found that one quite difficult, so I'm seeing if this is easier. This is called a walking foot. I decided to try this because I did a lot of research and watched a lot of videos. And the thing with the walking foot, it has those little feed dogs that are on the bottom of your fabric, also on the top. So you'll see those feed dogs on your sewing machine. And so these ones are on this presser foot. And so when it holds it together, it holds the material, so it's pushing not just the material on the bottom, it's also pulling the material on the top. So it has feed dogs on the top as well. So you have the feed dogs under and on the top. So far I'm having some luck, but I am having to kind of pull and help my fabric get through. So you can try it this way, or you can try it with your regular presser foot. If your weaving's thick like mine is, it is going to be a little bit challenging. I'm finding going slowly works better for this presser foot. And this foot did not come with my sewing machine. I had to order it. So it's not perfect, but it did work. I'm not going to be able to see that anyways because the fringe will be laying over top of it. I have the 2 other pieces of material for the back of the pillow. I'm folding over a 1/4 inch of one long side and ironing it. And then I sew along this part, and that'll give me a nice finished edge for my pillow cover. So now you're going to put your right sides, your good sides together. The edge that you didn't sew is the outside. this edge is going to be where the pillow goes in. So this is the finished side touching the finished side of the weaving. And overhang it on all sides to allow for your seam allowance. You're going to sew through the weaving and through this piece, which is the back cover of your pillow. So I've decided it's going to be easier to pin it from the weaving side. So again, right sides are together. This is the back side of my weaving. This way I can see my seam allowance. I have it centered between the two sides of fabric, and I'm just going to pin that together. Okay, this is trickier than I anticipated because I've got that one piece attached now. And now I'm looking at my bottom piece and I need to attach the other piece to this piece of fabric that we added to our weaving because our weaving wasn't long enough. What I realize is when I put my piece here, and I'm going to have to go in the sewing machine, there's all this material inside and I'm wondering if that's going to get in the way. So I'm going to cut some of the length off of my tassels, off of my fringe first, and then I'm going to do that because I know I don't want my tassels to be this long. So I'm going to do a preliminary cut, maybe cut off like 4 inches. I think it's going to make that a little bit easier. The wrong sides are together and I'm just going to pin this together so these are aligned. I'm new to sewing. What I realize is doing things that are very bulky like pillows might not be the best beginner's project, even though I thought pillows would be the easiest. And I think they are easy if you're just using fabric, but of course I want to use macrame cord and make macrame style pillows like the other two. And this one, which is a weaving. So working with really thick materials in just a regular sewing machine might not be the best first project like I thought it was, but I've been so happy with my results so far, so it is. So rather than sew all the way around the pillow in the first go, I'm just gonna sew this edge and see how it goes. And I'm gonna go step by step on this one. This is actually going quite well. This walking presser foot is a game changer because it holds those pieces together. It's not trying to separate. And I'm just sewing really slowly. Now I'm going to sew the other side. To lift my presser foot extra to get it under there. I'm going to sew it as close to the edge as I can. Okay, and success. Actually worked better than I expected. Now I have to sew the sides. There's no way my sewing machine is going to get over this because this is going to be folded down. I'm going to be going through all this material. So I'm going to cut off a little bit of just the exterior fringe and I hope that that's going to work. So I've actually decided to baste this side together because it just seems like the right thing to do. Pinning it all the way was hard and I want to make sure it's not going to slip while I'm sewing. Oh my God, it's working. If you see inside here, it's all sewn in. So now I'm going to tackle the other side. Okay, I think somehow this has worked. This is the moment of truth. I'm going to turn it inside out. Wait. First, we must trim the corners. I'm going to give them a little extra trim. Okay, time to do it. Remember that extra material I added? That little strip, that's that. You guys, it worked. It worked. It worked. Don't mind my mess all over, but that's the reality of sewing. So the fringe is on there. So let's put the pillow inside before I cut the fringe. After cutting the fringe, this is what my pillow looks like. Making these pillows was so much fun, and if you want to make another macrame project that's home decor, watch this tutorial next.